Pilar Zuniga, and I'm the owner of Gorgeous and Green. I'm also the COO of Mama Dog Studios, and both are located in Oakland, California. So I came up with Gorgeous and Green, probably in 2008. So this was a long time ago. And originally I had wanted, there's a couple of steps to the process. One was I was imagining the logo, and I really liked the idea of Chanel and kind of the two backwards C's, or I think there are other brands that do the backwards letters. So I was imagining that one. Also, what was really important is that the business was sustainable and eco-friendly. So green was a way to kind of say that without having to say eco-friendly. I could just say green. A lot of things that are green are more sustainable or good for the planet. So I just kind of went through the process of looking at different words that also began with a G. Honestly, that would go well with green. So I think I had listed lots of different variations, and Gorgeous and Green just kind of came together and sounded really nice. I remember I was thinking, should it be Green and Gorgeous or Gorgeous and Green? And then Gorgeous and Green just sounded a lot, I don't know, green at the end sounded like final and good. So that's what I did. And that's how I came up with the name. Good question. Gorgeous and Green is a local and sustainable floral business. So basically it started out with weddings and events, and I had a full-time job and I was doing that on the side. And then I decided to open a retail shop called Gorgeous and Green that was flowers and then products that were locally made and sustainable. And then I had that for a while. I actually had 2 shops in Berkeley, and then I got kind of tired of that and I moved it to a studio. So now I'm a studio florist, and I have an online store, and people order online, and then I deliver locally to Berkeley, Oakland, and Emeryville. Mostly floral flower arrangements, but I also do gift baskets with cool local made and organic body products and cool stuff like that. Okay, so I chose floral to start a flower business or some kind of floral design business because I was working pretty much a 9-to-5 job in nonprofit, and I had been I really liked my job, but then I ended up becoming, I was in the field. I started out in the field, and then I became a manager, and then I became a director. So I was less and less in the field. After working sort of behind the desk for a long time, I realized I really needed to get creative. So I started Gorgeous and Green on the side. So I'd work the 9-to-5 job, and then I'd do Gorgeous and Green on the weekends or when I came home from work until 10 o'clock at night, and then I go to sleep. So it was a creative outlet. It turned into my work, my life. So the transition from working full-time 9-to-5 to starting my own business, so there was sort of a lot of work that went into it. So I probably did 6 months to a year prep before I actually quit my full-time job. And then I moved into retail. I started retail. I was basically working 7 days a week for a year straight, almost. Eventually was able to start bringing people on, and I did retail for 6.5 years, and I really loved it. Everybody wants to open up their own shop, and play cashier and work with customers. what I realized is that I didn't make a lot of money doing it in comparison to the amount of work I did. I did provide a lot of jobs for other people, and obviously I bought a lot of people's work and sold it, and it was really great for I think kind of this local economy, and people really enjoyed the shop. But considering all the overhead and the price of retail locations that were going to get enough foot traffic, it just started to add up. So I got a little burnt out. I got also a little burnt out with customers, and just having to be on all the time. So I made the transition to move into a studio and do everything online because of that burnout, and because I feel like I needed, I've already transitioned a couple times already in my life, and I figured why not one more? And I actually could think this is continuously transitioning. But once I made the transition to a studio, lowered all the overhead, the amount of money I made, almost doubled. So I think that just knowing that I had a hunch that I was just doing too much and not getting enough in return. Although it was really great to have a lot of positive feedback from customers and from people who really enjoyed kind of the space that I created. But it takes a lot out of you. So that was kind of the gradual transition. Plus, it didn't help that I had to do so much in the beginning to get the retail space off the ground. I think it's like you're already low on batteries, and then push through for another 6 years or so. Few lessons. I mean, there's continuously lessons that I've learned, but one that I wish that I had learned that I didn't was that I had started years ago blogging, and it was before there was a lot of people blogging. And so I had these ideas like, why are there no florists that are sustainable? Why are people using floral foam, which is that green brick, in arrangements when it's made of plastic and it doesn't biodegrade very quickly, and it has chemicals in it that are not so great for people. So why I used to blog about it, and then I kind of just I got a little traction, and then I just got really busy and I stopped altogether. And I tried to pick it up every once in a while, but I think if I had learned in the beginning to just figure out a way to be consistent, to schedule, just a small little bit on a weekly basis, then I probably could have kept that momentum going that I had started in the beginning, and kept it for the last 11 years, and I think I would have maybe created a larger following that way. So that's one lesson, and I don't feel horrible about it at this point. I'm just that would have been nice if I had continued on. So I think that's one thing to think about in the beginning of a business, is when you do start to put something into place, to really keep it up, because you may not see the results after a year or two, but I think time flies, and after 5 years, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I've been doing that for 5 years, and I've been consistent about it, and now that I have this community of people, especially when it comes to social media, who are following me, who have been with me the whole time, so they actually feel very involved. So that was one lesson that I wish I had thought of. So one more lesson I learned that I think actually is really important, and I relearn it every so often, is really not to take anything personal. I think rereading the book, The 4 Agreements, every once in a while, it's really imperative. Because when you have a business where you have some public connection, you have a connection with other people, whether it's just online, via email, you're talking to people on the phone, you're in face-to-face interactions, anything like that, there's an opportunity for people to have an opinion about you and to critique you, to give you maybe information that may or may not be helpful. So all of those are opportunities to take things very personal and to really realize that, like, when you create a business, yes, it is a part of you, but it isn't you, right? That isn't you. So when they have a critique or they don't like something that you did, or you didn't, or you made a mistake, even just taking ownership for something like that, just realizing that, like, hey, that's this, that's not this. You know, like, I can step up, I can take responsibility for part of that, but yeah, that's a huge thing, because it's really, really difficult. I think I think it happens for a lot of women too, because we are taught to be so empathetic and sympathetic that sometimes we can get, we can take things a little too personal. We can feel it a little bit more. So I think that's one thing that I'm consistently remembering, a lesson. If you can learn that, then I think most things will come fairly easy. And also making mistakes will come easier too. You'll figure out, oh, okay, I made a mistake. Time to figure out how to change or make it work in a better way. As far as its Instagram goes, I learned early on to create a look, and to, like, really, when you look at the page of all of my little pictures, that it's like a nice collage, and that was really honed because I did a workshop a few years ago, and they said, you know, basically you want people to, if they visit your page, that they see and it all sort of makes sense, that you don't have, like, that it's easy on the eyes. So I use a color over and over again. That's sort of part of my branding. Part of my branding also is very colorful and vivid colors, so I'll use that background color to kind of help offset all of the color that I end up showing. I do a lot of flowers, and the thing is that most of my work is floral design, so most of my photos are of flowers. I want to change it up every once in a while, so I usually try to incorporate every couple images I put up. I either show a person, usually that person is me because I'm the easiest person to find, honestly, or a body, even a body part with the flowers really helps. I have dogs, so putting the dogs in, and this is something even with my other business that I'm working on, Mama Dog Studios. It's a similar situation where there's only so much you can show of this one space. So then I incorporate pictures of flowers sometimes, or a dog, because I have the dog. Yeah, so I think just really looking at it as a story you're telling visually for the full page. And then whenever I post, really kind of making sure it stays on brand. That I'm not, even if it's not something that I created, that it's somebody else's. I usually don't do somebody else's work, but sometimes I'll be like on vacation, and I might post a photo of myself on vacation amongst flowers, for example. Then that would make sense for my brand. But me, like, skiing around a ton of snow doesn't quite make sense, because I don't really have any snow in my brand, in my work, you know. So it's kind of got to be cohesive, and then I feel like it makes it look pretty, because then people know what they're gonna look for. And then as far as my captions and everything, one lesson, actually, that ties back to a lesson I learned, which was to actually be myself. So I'm quirky, I tell stupid jokes, and I'm kind of I'm a truth teller. Well, I'll just say that. And then, you know, I don't always hold a lot back, or yeah, I'm just kind of a dork sometimes. So I allow that to inform what I post, and like have you know, I'm okay with just being like trying to make a joke or trying to make it rhyme, or you know, being a dork and also showing this beautiful flower or something like that. So it's kind of a fun way to incorporate who you are with your brand, and making sure that doesn't get lost, because then I feel like I'm more invested when I get to share a little bit of myself. So networking is really difficult when you're busy. I'll just say that. And I'm an interesting personality in that I really feel the most comfortable, because my work takes so much energy. I really get a lot out of being alone. So the first place I want to go after a long day is away into my own space. And so I really have to push through that and be like, okay, I need to go to this event, look for a conference like the Alt Conference, where Nicole and I met, and actually like force myself to get on board with this, you know, buy the tickets, and then I'm kind of invested and actually make it work. I think that those really, like when something comes your way and you see it and you're like, oh, but it's at 7:00 on, you know, like a Wednesday night, and I know I'm gonna be already tired because, you know, Monday's hard enough to get through, and then all of a sudden, I think just really sometimes pushing through that little discomfort to get yourself there, and then you just never know, you know, even if you don't have a ton of energy to put out to meet people and you're just there, I mean, one connection is really all that was worth that hour or two that you spent there. You never know when you're going to make a great connection. That could be a relationship that lasts for, you know, years to come, or that brings, you know, some kind of cool creative project to you, or money. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, really trying to make those things happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that there have been many epiphanies, but I think that probably the most valuable epiphany that I'd like to share is that I realized that through all of these different transitions I've had, so I've had multiple 9-to-5 jobs, and I always got what I wanted. That was like, I'm going to be this, and then I got that job. Then I turned around and became a business owner, and I'm going to be this, and I'm going to have a retail shop, and I did that. And then I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to have a studio, and I did that. I think that my epiphany is that I can do whatever it is that I want. Honestly, like you can create your own life with, and you know, obviously I started out with resources, and they sort of helped me make the next transition. So. you can find me online. I'm at gorgeousandgreen.com, and my Instagram is probably the most fun at gorgeousandgreen. So.